What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a video on managing your trade empire in Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. As taking up the role of a rogue trader involves managing a trade empire by its very nature, but how that works functionally in a game like this, as well as the tabletop version, is a little bit different than you might expect. And given Owlcat Games, the developer's penchant for adding in side systems like kingdom management or the crusade mode in their previous games, some people have had some questions about how all of this works. And I will say it is not nearly as intrusive as those previous systems they've worked on, but there's a little bit to know, and most of it is optional. Some of it will just happen simply by playing the game, though. But whereas many other games would simply give you an amount of gold and then that's what you have to spend, that's not really how it works here. Because by the very nature of being a rogue trader, we have access to an immense amount of wealth. We own literal planets. And as such, the fantasy of that doesn't exactly align with being broke. So instead of giving us a set amount of currency to work with, we are instead using what is called our profit factor. And both profit factor and our own reputation are the factors by which we will be interacting with vendors by. And we'll discuss how that works first. So, as a rogue trader, trading is the very nature of our business, and our reputation is very important in that regard. So, there are a variety of factions that we'll come into contact with as we play through the game, though in many ways these reputations are simply vendors, and by unlocking higher tiers of reputation, we'll unlock the ability to eventually buy more things from them, provided we also have the profit factor. But the reputation part of this is very simple. As we play through the game, you'll be picking up a ton of loot. You have your own party inventory as well as your ship's cargo inventory. Cargo inventory is what you are ultimately going to be trading to vendors for reputation. You don't get a currency out of selling items in this game, but rather you get reputation with the people you sold it to. So anytime we pick up a variety of loot, we kill enemies, we just explore and find it, any which way you might get it, we can send it to the cargo inventory of our ship, where it will automatically be sorted for us into cargo bays of various types, be that ranged weaponry, armor, various different other types. And that's important because these cargo bays are then associated with a percentage completion. Once they reach 100%, that is to say they are full, we can trade that to someone who wants it. And when we find said vendor and we go to do this, we can see how much reputation we will earn by selling them various full different cargo bays. And this is how we earn our reputation. Very straightforward, you'll move up through tiers, and while this might seem like a lot, the sheer volume of loot you're going to be picking up if you are actually picking up everything makes this very easy to do. If anything, you'll have an overabundance of stuff to trade, which is kind of the point. Personally, I actually like this system quite a bit because it makes all of the useless items that you would normally find on enemies, like the underwhelming gear that they were using, actually have a purpose, because now we can just auto-sort that into our cargo inventory and then trade it off for reputation. But the other part of trading is our profit factor. Like I said, we don't use a hard currency, as that really wouldn't make sense here. Rather, the entirety of our wealth in our trade empire is represented by a number called our profit factor. We can earn profit factor a variety of ways, simply by completing some of the main story stuff, which will see us restoring parts of our trade empire, which gives us more profit factor. We'll be able to develop colonies, which we'll talk about in a bit, or simply completing various quests and making certain decisions might actually grant you more profit factor as well. Say if you were to choose a particularly greedy way to end a quest that saw you coming into some wealth, that would be represented by an increase in your profit factor. However, profit factor isn't something that goes away. In the alpha, they played around with having it sort of recharge. That is to say, you would spend your profit factor and then it would take a while for it to build back up to its maximum. Once your profit factor reaches a certain level, you can buy everything under that freely with no wait time, anything like that. Which I think works out pretty well, as we're already limited by the inventory of who we're buying from a little bit anyway. And that pretty much sums up how profit factor and reputation work, which is simple enough once you get used to it, but it's very different from most everything besides the tabletop system that is the source material here. Another big part of our trade empire is managing our colonies. As a rogue trader, we will have planets and thus the colonies on them directly under us that we technically own. As such, we'll be able to develop those and potentially make the most out of them, resulting in some unique rewards. Some of these colonies need to be found by exploring the star map. Others will be granted to you simply by completing main story objectives. However, either way that happens, once you have these colonies under your control, you can start developing them, which comes down to completing various events, building certain structures, etc. Honestly, the system is relatively tame, but it does require you to have various resources. At the top of the screen, we can see what resources we have available to us, and we gain most of these by exploring various planets. In a sort of Mass Effect style, we can go around to planets, scan them. If they have resources, we can set up an extractor if we have one, which is one of the items we can buy from the reputation vendors, and doing so will grant us the appropriate amount of material from that planet. And doing this over and over again is how you build up your resources initially, but once you start building up these colonies, they'll start contributing to these things as well, on top of your actual profit factor. However, in addition to just those things, we can also get other rewards like special weapons, more reputation with certain vendors if we make certain choices, or even get special things in combat like certain bonuses. One colony can even give you an extra ship to use in the space combat system I've already covered in a video previously. So there's a lot of rewards to building up these colonies, but for the most part, you're left up to your own devices in that regard. You don't necessarily need to do much of that. Every once in a while, though, these colonies will have events that require you to go visit them and then make a decision, but even these don't really have a time limit or anything. You just go there when you happen to be by and you can take care of them. And depending on your decisions in those events, it'll affect the various resources at play, because each colony has its own individual resources it has to watch out for, like security or complacency, all of which kind of feeds into the projects you're able to undertake. And that, I would say, is pretty much the important things to know in terms of managing our trade empire. But I do want to emphasize here at the end, though, this is a very tame system in comparison to their previous ones. You don't necessarily need to do much of this or micromanage it. Like I said, you'll gain most of your profit factor simply by playing the game. Completing main story objectives will give it to you in many cases. And you'll be earning so much loot by just playing the game that you'll pretty much always have stuff to trade for the reputation you need. So much of this system and being incredibly involved with it is simply going to give you extra bonuses that make your life a little easier, like more profit factor sooner to buy better stuff faster, better bonuses in all instances of the game, really, things like that. However, it's not necessary for you to do that in many cases, especially on normal. And overall, it's a system I enjoy. It's present enough to make you feel like a rogue trader in the sense that, you actually have this empire to manage if you feel like it, while also having some more direct effects on the things that are available to you, without at the same time being a very heavily involved system that you have to stay on top of that takes away from the main experience, which I think is a lot of people's concern with the system, given Owlcat's previous work. And while the Crusade mode from Wrath of the Righteous didn't bother me much, the kingdom management in Kingmaker was not fun, at least for me. But that is going to do it for today. I hope you guys found this informative. I hope it helped you learn a few things about how this is going to work. If you have any other questions about the system, feel free to drop them down below. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.